Good morning, power people, and welcome to our Sunday morning womb healing call. I just love how we are able to gather, invest in being intentional about how we set up our week, listen to each other, and be able to just hold space for our sisters. Sisterhood is still real. When I first started doing the womb healing call years ago, there would be no one here. It would be me and my obedience to God. And it's fascinating how the gifts that God gives you cycle and are resourced. So here I am again this morning in the Women's Circle of Empowerment on our Sunday morning womb call. And it's me, God, and my gift. I have always given what I've needed, taught what I live, postured what I believe and hold is true. And throughout the years, it has empowered thousands of people worldwide. And so here I am this morning having the privilege of returning to my roots, continuing to do what I feel compelled to do, continuing to offer my gifts. I'm going to release this morning's teaching to the women who need it the most. Matter of fact, I'm going to pause for a second and invite women to join me who aren't here, who may want to hop on. One moment. All right, so let's get into it. So this morning, I want to teach on clearing shame and self-judgment through the Dharma of the womb. I want to sit down in some Buddhist wisdom, right, and really activate the teachings from the Buddha to help you release. This is the time of year as we prepare for winter where that season teaches you how to let certain things die, let certain things be what they are and settle, right? So as we gather, not because we don't know our worth, but because we do. And as we come into this circle this morning, remembering what was never lost, I just want to say that shame and self-judgment are just remnants of the past. They're not the true reflection of who you are. Shame and self-judgment are the dust, not the mirror. And today I want to wipe the mirror clean. I want to make sure that you hold the correct self-concept. So here's what Buddha's teachings say about shame. And you might want to grab some pen and paper for this conversation because it is going to give you some nuggets you can use long after you leave this call this morning. So let me first start with just opening the way. Divine, I thank you for the opportunity to use my voice, my energy, my ashe, my words to educate, empower, and activate the women. It is an honor. It is a gift. As I teach, as I speak, as I share, as I create this content, as I create this experience, may somebody listening get exactly what they need. And so it is. Ashe. So here's one of the first Buddha teachings. Shame is not your identity. It's called anatta, A-N-A-T-T-A, not self. And it's not about denying your existence. It's about stripping away the false labels that cling to your spirit. And shame is one of those labels. Shame is one of those things that want to convince you that you are not who you say you are. It is whisper things like, look at your life, look at your health, look at your finances, look at this, look at that. And shame will have you thinking that adversity and obstacles are your identity. But Buddha said, just as a serpent sheds its skin, so may a person shed harmful states of mind. I was in the Dhammapada. Shame isn't a spiritual tattoo. It's sheddable. You don't have to live in it. You don't have to hold a moment as the final chapter. And it can fall away and it's allowed to leave you. And as a woman, your womb is recording and remembering everything, but it is also releasing everything. It's also releasing everything. So your biology is already preaching the Dharma. Good morning, Christy. Your biology is already preaching the Dharma. So that's the first layer of what Buddha says, how that can intersect with the power of your femininity and being a woman and your womb. Just as a serpent sheds its skin, so may a person shed harmful states of mind. I literally was watching one of those animated videos on Instagram, and it was showing the internal process of the period of a woman's cycle. And I was fascinated with how the womb's rhythm is about cycles, shedding, and regenerating. Your uteral lining will thicken, then it will shed when there's no fertilization. And then, as the blood is coming out and them stem cells are being released in your blood and all of that, then your womb rebuilds herself every month. A healthy womb will cycle and show you the rhythm of life. So yeah, you get to relax into the Buddhist teaching of anatta, not self, right? That what you experience is not necessarily who you are. That you are bigger than what you go through. And that's whether what you're experiencing is success, positive things, or negative things. To limit yourself and your whole identity to just what you experience is a disservice to the magnificence that God and Goddess exercised when they created you. You are bigger. And so when you are facing adversity, when you are facing challenges and change, and you feel tempted to lean into shame, it can fall away. It's allowed to leave you. It's allowed to pass. You don't have to make that your identity. So shame is not your identity. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to quote from the Dhammapada, because I love what Buddha says about it. Just as a serpent sheds its skin, so may a person shed harmful states of mind. All right, second Buddhist teaching, the Lotus Sutra. And any of my sacred women initiates, you know a lot about the lotus and the symbolism, right? Put some hearts if that is part of your experience. So your mud is not your measure. Put that in the chat. Your mud is not your measure. In the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha compares every being to a lotus that rises from muddy water. I don't know about y'all, but 2025 brought some muddy water to my life. There are things that I went through this year that if I did not put in the work I've already put in to be healed and in deep relationship with my womb would have broken me, would have fractured my soul, my spirit, my identity about myself. But God, sometimes you have moments in life where those two words make the difference on everything. But God, your mud is not your measure. And don't take the mud personal. Don't think that just because you're powerful, you're exempt. The mud is not the insult, it is the birth. The mud is not the insult, it is the birthplace. The mud is not the insult, it is the birthplace. Don't miss that. Don't miss that. Your mud is not your measure. That's why I love the Lotus Sutra. So when we're talking about shame, right? Good morning. Good morning. I see new sisters coming in. Welcome to the circle.
Good morning.
So I'm teaching on shame and the Dharma of the womb. So just catch this vibe with us this morning. So shame says, because I come from the mud, I am unworthy. But look at the wisdom of Buddha in the Lotus Sutra, where he was literally comparing every being to a lotus that rises from muddy water. If you can really tap into the wisdom, right, you will see that here on earth, it's a place of polarity. You don't appreciate the sunshine without the rain. You don't appreciate warm weather until you really experience cold weather, right? Like, contrast is where you cultivate your wisdom and your power. But when shame comes into play, when you've had a lot of muddy water in your life, put some hearts if you've had a lot of muddy water in your life, right? Shame will try to train you to think, because I come from the mud, I must be unworthy. Because I have so much adversity, so many challenges, because I've been betrayed, because I've been abandoned, rejected, so because that's my mud, I must be me. The people keep changing. That's why I hate these kind of teachings, by the way. The people keep changing, but I'm the common denominator, so it must be me. But the Dharma says, because I come from the mud, I rise anyway. Put I rise in the chat. Do you know that even your womb understands the power of darkness? That your womb grows life out of darkness? And your spirit does the same? I was just having a conversation with my sister yesterday. I said, for years of doing this work and holding the space for the women, I have became and taught the women how to be masterful manifestors, right? Put some hearts if you was there for all of that, right? Like masterful manifestors, right? I said, but in this season, as we approach winter, as we have to settle and accept what we were able to get done in 2025 and what we weren't, I am going to be the master teacher of how to lose. If you caught that, put a heart. Everybody don't want that curriculum. Everybody loves the light, but they forget the power of the dark. And unless you learn how to integrate, unless you recognize that your mud is not your measure, you will get lost and you will get frustrated with your life because you're always expecting light, even though darkness is needed. You need the self-mastery in both, and you need to learn how to grow out of the mud. Every single obstacle needs your permission to exist, and you lose certain levels of your power when you lean into avoidance, when you don't want to practice your power because you want a lifestyle that's always easy, always. It's just not like that on earth. Earth is ghetto. It's just not designed like that. It's not made like that. It's just, no, the Lotus Sutra, this is what Buddha was teaching. Like, No, everything comes from muddy water. So you give yourself a vibrational advantage. Good morning. And wait, Kazi, we miss you. Hey, sis. You
Hey,
give
thank you. Going on.
a vibrational advantage when you accept that because I came from the mud, I'm a rise. Nothing has crippled women like avoidance. Put an exclamation mark in the chat if you understand. When I see women lean into avoidance, some of that is because of shame, not feeling adequate enough or powerful enough to deal with what's in front of them. I'm so overwhelmed by the bills. I don't even open the mail no more. I'm avoiding. I feel so overwhelmed by being chronically disappointed in my love life. I don't even have the necessary conversations. I feel so, that avoidance is poison to your growth. Lean into the dark spaces. For 9 months when a child is in the womb, it's bathing and baptizing in the dark maternal energy. It sees glimpses of light, right? Shining into the womb, but it really doesn't really understand the value of the light until it has to learn how to survive in it. And I hate the misrepresentation of the dark power and energy as if it's bad. Both are needed. When the sperm first hits the egg, there's a spark of light. But after that, it is the darkness that cultivates. And when you read through all of the ancient texts, it's the same creation narrative thing. In Genesis in the Bible, the spirit moved upon dark water, not light bright. So what makes you think that just because you are powerful, that you are exempt from the mud of life? You will have it. You will have your share, and you should be prepared for it. You should know how to gain and win, and you should know how to accept your L's and be masterful in that too, because it will make you a rare gift in the world. It will give you wisdom, and it will give you strength, and it will give you the capacity to interact with others and not be unrooted and not be bothered because you're masterful with all levels of life. So yes, I wanted to bring the Lotus Sutra to you in the context of this conversation about shame, because your mud is not your measure. All right, so third point. So first point, because I know some of y'all just joined in, I talked about Buddha's teaching on how shame is not your identity from the anatta, the anatta, anatta, not self. And the Dhammapada, where Buddha says, just as a serpent sheds its skin, so may a person shed harmful states of mind. And I talked about how even in the anatomy of your womb will cycle and shed and regenerate and rebirth. Your biology is already preaching the Dharma as a woman. So that was our first teaching point. My second is the Lotus Sutra and how your mud is not your measure, which is where y'all were coming in. And so the third point is, and I said at the beginning, y'all probably won't want pen and paper this morning because I feel like teaching. Sometimes we just chit chat in the women's circle of empowerment, but this morning I really feel like teaching. So the third point is the middle way, right? The middle way. Stop punishing yourself. One of the things I like about the Buddhist spiritual practice is that it rejects extremes. Buddhism rejects extremes, self-indulgence and self-punishment, right? Shame. I want y'all to really hear this and see where you feel it in your body. Shame is a form of violence against yourself. Put that in the chat. Shame is a form of violence against yourself. Why? Why is shame a form of violence against yourself? Because when you lean into shame, you literally trade who God says you are for what shame is telling you you are. Shame says you're a failure, you're not good enough. Look at what you've done with your life at this big age. Shame says things like you still haven't manifested that yet. You gonna pray another year for that. You gonna put that on the vision board again. Shame says all these things. It's whispering and trying to seed. But you were born with a clear identity. You were born with your destiny. Before you even made it to your mother's womb, you were already active and with spirit. You came here to practice embodiment of your divinity and your humanity. And you get to coexist in both without needing to feel shame and feeling inadequate when your human side is kicking in and your divine side is saying, girl, what are you doing? Right? Like you get to be in full expression of your power. And there is power for you on all sides and all levels of who you are. So in the Buddhist teachings, Buddha warned against what's called, I don't know how to pronounce this correctly, but I'll spell it for you, Pampanka. P-A-P-A-N-C-A. Papanka. What that concept is the mind's habit of creating unnecessary suffering. And Buddha warned against the habit of creating unnecessary suffering. And that's literally what self-judgment is. Excuse me, y'all, my sinuses are draining. That's literally what self-judgment is. It is the mental habit. It is the mental habit of creating unnecessary suffering. And where there is judgment, there's going to be a need for punishment. Because when you render judgments, whether it's on yourself or other people, the energy of judgment needs to be managed. Something needs to be done with judgment, right? So now we gotta create a punishment. So now that's why shame is a form of violence. So now when you are shaming yourself and you're feeling terrible about all these things, now you gotta discipline yourself. Now you gotta talk bad about yourself, or you gotta, deny yourself pleasure and the things you enjoy. You're not being spiritually disciplined just because life gets challenging and you get some mud. And you're beating yourself with a stick that the Buddha never handed to you. We're not interested. None of the master teachers of old were interested in you living your life through the lens of shame. You got to find the middle way. You got to find the middle way. You got to find a way to stop living in your emotional extremes and your triggers. You don't have to live through your woundedness. So the middle way will call you back into balance, back into compassion, back into truth. It'll help you balance the energy so that you can be gentle with yourself and allow yourself to experience the dance of life between your humanity and your divinity. But to expect that you always going to be on some God level energy, this just not real. It's earth. This is the classroom for self-mastery. You're going to have layers and contrasts and ebbs and flows and cycles. So find the middle way. Where are you able to love yourself? And this is what I teach, and I'm going to expand on this in the upcoming class, which I'll share that with y'all when I'm done teaching. This is what I mean when I talk about radical self-acceptance. Like, it doesn't matter what state I find myself in in life, I'm going to love me right there. I'm going to love myself right where I am. Well, what if you've made mistakes? What if you made bad choices? What does it profit me to be harsh with myself, to shame myself, to punish myself because maybe I didn't say that the right way, maybe I didn't handle that the right way, what is that going to do for my life? I would rather be the perfect person to love me and accept me, so that when it's time for me to encounter other people, I can model what I accept. See, the problem with shame, and this is another reason it's a form of violence, is when you live in the energy of shame and self-judgment, you train other people that it's okay to bring that energy to you because it's your norm, it's your psychological and emotional habit. And that's why it's important to discipline your emotions and sometimes choose to depedestalize them and govern your life by your truth about yourself, not just what you feel. If that's good, put some hearts. If you kept up with me for point number 3, put some hearts. Say, okay, Tam, I hear you. All right. This is not the season to abandon the good that you are and see yourself incorrectly. See yourself the way God sees you. You are powerful. You are a gift. You are significant. And every day that you wake up with that breath is the evidence of that. Let that breath be more than enough, right? And then every other good thing that happens throughout that day is just added evidence that you matter. Okay, so let me get to point 4. Point 4. Point 4 is the principle called metta, M-E-T-T-A, metta, loving kindness. Loving kindness. In the Buddhist tradition, this is called the medicine for shame. Metta was literally Buddha's teaching on how to heal any harshness that has turned inward. And the Metta Sutta says, Metta Sutta, says, let one cultivate an infinite love for oneself and all beings. Let one cultivate an infinite love for oneself and all beings. If you can't extend love to yourself, you break the Dharma in half. I want to say that again so you don't miss it. If you can't extend love to yourself, you break the Dharma in half. Metta starts in the womb space, the heart space, the breath space, the creation space. Existence is an act of love. So when you speak loving kindness to your womb, shame has nowhere to land and take root because you're residing in the power of love and kindness. In the Bible, in 1 Corinthians 13, one of my favorite texts, it talks about what love is and the power of it. Matter of fact, let me just throw that in the mix real quick. Because it's so good. I'm going to do it in the NLT version. Y'all know I like Message. But I like this particular text in NLT. But it puts things in perspective, the power of love and kindness. So it says, if I could speak all the languages of earth and of angels, but didn't love others, I would only be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I had the gift of prophecy and I understood all of God's secret plans and possessed all knowledge, and if I had such faith that I could move mountains, but didn't love others, I would be nothing. If I gave everything I have to the poor, let's say I got wealth, right? I got the bags. If I gave everything I have to the poor and even sacrificed my own body, I could boast about it. But if I didn't love others, I would have gained nothing. Love is patient and kind. See, if you're being patient with yourself, it's going to be hard to live in shame because you're giving yourself grace and you're acknowledging that life is a process and it takes time to understand yourself and embody your truth, right? Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud. Love is not jealous, boastful, or proud or rude. That's important in this era of ghosting people and being dismissive and avoided. Love is patient and kind, not jealous, boastful, proud, or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. What? Love is unbothered? It keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice. It's not celebrating suffering and harm, right? It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. Prophecy, speaking in unknown languages, special knowledge will become useless. We seeing that right now in this AI era. Like, you used to have to pay for information that you can get in 3 seconds. But love will last forever. Now, our knowledge is partial and incomplete, and even the gift of prophecy reveals only part of the whole picture. But when the time of perfection comes, these partial things will become useless. When I was a child, I spoke and I thought and reasoned as a child. But when I grew up, I put away childish things. Now we see things imperfectly, like puzzling reflections in a mirror, but then one day we will see everything with perfect clarity. All that I know now is partial and incomplete, but then I will know everything completely, just as God now knows me completely. 3 things will last forever: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Love conquers everything. So to deny yourself love to practice shame is going to serve you how? The Metta Sutta says, let one cultivate an infinite love for oneself and all beings. And when you speak loving kindness to your womb, shame has nowhere to sit. Where can it root? Because you know that sacral chakra energy, the womb is your seat of creative power. There is nothing on earth that exists for the human family without the permission of the womb. Show me a person on earth that did not come from a womb, right? So the womb is the cauldron of God. It is the bridge between heaven and earth. Women literally take a spirit, wrap it in flesh, bone, and push it on earth, or place it on earth, right? So the blueprint for creative power is sitting inside of the womb of your mind, the womb of your body, and the womb of your spirit. And so anything that roots in your life has to pass through your womb space. Anything that roots in your life has to pass through your womb space. This is why the work of the womb sauna is so critical and so important, because I teach women how to reset and how to program and leverage the power of their womb versus just living through life not knowing that they have that power, and other people profiting off of your ignorance and your feminine energy and your power, and being parasitic and milking your own sacral chakra creative power from you because you don't know you have it and you haven't figured out how to activate it and turn it on. That's why I do what I do. Because this is important. Because if the women are not okay, the world is not okay. And so when you seed love and kindness in your womb, shame may get triggered, but it has nowhere to land. Because you've programmed your womb, you've taught your womb what to feel, you've programmed her for love. Not just love for others, but love towards yourself. Okay? That's my fourth point. Let's get to the fifth one. I love the Buddhist perspective of how to handle shame. I really do. So the womb as a bodhisattva. God, I don't know why I can't pronounce anything this morning. Bodhisattva. Forgive the pronunciation, but the wisdom is valid. So treat your womb as a bodhisattva, one who commits to awakening your womb. Consecrate, anoint, place your hands over your womb for a second. Consecrate and anoint your womb as the part of you committed to awakening. Not just for your life, but for everyone involved in your life, everyone you love and care about. Your womb is committed, consecrated for awakening. She holds pain and still says we rise. Some of you, you know your womb story. Some of you, your womb has been cut, drugged, violated. You know what you've been through. And yet you're still here. You still have joy. You still have power, right? So your womb is magnificent with managing the polarities of life. She holds pain and still says, we rise, we okay. She holds memory. The womb records all the affairs and details of your life. There are things your womb remembers that your mind has forgotten. She holds memory and still says, we heal. She holds generational echoes and still says, we choose freedom. Not only am I not what I've gone through, I don't have to let my identity be what those who came before me went through. I was born to be something different. So I don't have to live through their lens. I get to choose my own. And when you judge yourself, you judge the very temple that keeps you alive. When you hold a perspective of life that says, I shouldn't have to go through that, why not? What makes you exempt? I'm not saying to feel good about adversity. I'm saying to properly place it so that you can leverage it instead of be crippled by it. There's not going to ever be a human being on a planet that doesn't have trauma. Everybody has their fair share of it. Even being born is traumatic. It's the first rite of passage, trying to get up out your mama's womb. Let today be the day where you stop making your trauma more important than your power. That's all. Awaken to your truth about yourself. And if you examine your truth about yourself and it needs to be elevated, it needs to be cleaned up, it needs to be a better truth, you can do that right now on this call. You don't have to live a truth that's not serving you, that's not edifying you, that's not setting you free. I know life can be challenging. It can be full of crap. You can go through a lot, but that does not mean that you are what you are going through. You are bigger. You will rise, you will heal, and you will be free. And healing doesn't start with a feeling. It starts with a decision. Long before I felt powerful. Matter of fact, when I felt my weakest is when I began to decree that I am raw, unapologetic power. I don't wait for my emotions to catch up. I program my truth and they teach my emotions. And I bring my emotions into submission to my truth. There's something incredible getting ready to happen in your life. 2026 you have never seen before. It's going to be the explanation for 2025. And all of the things that you seeded this year are going to make perfect sense. You're going to be like, but man, why, when I went through that, why I had to deal with it? It's going to make sense in 2026 if you create space for it to make sense. If you lean into creating a narrative that says, I should have never had to deal with that, and you're constantly going back, looking behind you, trying to change the past, which is unchangeable, you're going to waste your ashe. You're going to get lost. Forward, there's more for you. Forward, take everything you've gone through and let it make you wiser. Let it teach you, not conquer you. And you can do that when you don't lean into the shame and the self-judgment, and you allow yourself to have a real process called life where you're learning and you're growing. Okay, so I want to those are my 5 teaching points. I'm gonna recap for you, and then we're gonna go into a guided meditation. I want to connect you to the Dharma of your womb and the energy of that. I want you to feel it in your body, because it's one thing for the mind to get what it needs, but every cell in your body needs to align with the clarity. Okay, so we're gonna see that. So let me recap. Number 1, shame is not your identity. In the Dhammapada, Buddha says, just as a serpent sheds its skin, so may a person shed harmful states of mind. Let it go, let it go. Number 2, the Lotus Sutra. Your mud is not your measure. The mud is not the insult, it's the birthplace. And the Dharma says, because I come from the mud, I rise anyway. Okay? Your womb grows life out of darkness, and so does your spirit. I just want to reinforce that. Number 3, the middle way. Find the middle way. Stop punishing yourself. Shame is a form of violence against yourself. Do not create unnecessary suffering. Get back into self-compassion. Get back into your truth about yourself. Number 4, the metta, the medicine for shame, loving kindness. It is the direct antidote for the harshness we turn inward. And the Metta Sutta says, let one cultivate an infinite love for oneself and all beings. Number 5, the womb as a bodhisattva. Bodhisattva. Say that 5 times fast. Yeah, your womb is the one committed to awakening, not just for yourselves, but for everyone you touch. Let today be the day that you stop insulting your temple. Okay? If you got all 5 points, put some heart so I know that you got your 5 points in your notes and everything for this morning. So there's a few things I want you to think about as we go into a meditative space. There's some journal prompts, some questions I want you to be able to answer. You may or may not be able to answer them today, but I'm hoping as you move through the week and we set our intentions to clear shame this week, that you'll get to the answer to these questions. Okay. So the first question is, what shame have you carried that is not yours? What shame did you inherit? Were you a planned pregnancy? Were you a whoops baby? That's what we used to call it back in the day, right? What shame have you carried that is not yours? Somebody betrayed you but projected all of their negative energy towards you, so they got you second guessing your social skills as if you did something to them when the whole time they did something to you. What shame have you carried that is not yours? The shame of having a track record of picking boo-boo the fool in your love life, and now you're like carrying the energy of your past lovers in your body. What shame have you carried that is not? I'm just giving examples to see what hits, right? So that's the first question I want you to be able to answer as we go into a guided breathwork space. Second one, what story have you told yourself that no longer fits your spirit? Come on. Let's get clear today, not tomorrow, today. What story have you told yourself that no longer fits your spirit? This doesn't work for me. I've told myself that I could only express my gifts a certain way, and yet I'm not even expressing in the way I said I could express them. Like, what story am I telling myself? It doesn't fit the expansiveness, the vastness, the audacity of my spirit. I've changed, and I'm not letting my lifestyle and the way I express catch up to the change that my spirit has made. What story have you told yourself that no longer fits your spirit? Third question I want you to reflect on. What judgment did you inherit from family, religion, partners, or culture that you place on yourself? What judgments did you inherit from your family, your religion, your partners, or your culture that you're placing on yourself? And lastly, what would it feel like to drop it right now? To drop and just clear all shame, all self-judgment, everything that's no longer working for you. What would it feel like to just drop all of that off and say, no, I'm free, right? What would that feel like? I want you to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. On your exhale, I want you to make the sound ha. So it is sound like ha. Ha is the sound of the heart. It is the sound of the heart. And I want you to allow yourself to feel the information you just heard in your body. And I want you to take your thumbs, press them together, put them in your belly button, and let your hands just rest over your womb. And gently pat, rub, hug your womb. Acknowledge her and her power and her capacity to rewrite the records of your life. Continue to breathe. Feel what you need to feel. Feel what you need to feel. Have the conversation you need to have with yourself, with your body, and with your God to be free of shame and self-judgment. And I am holding the space for you to do that. So take a few moments and be with yourself. So I want to begin to call you back to this moment. Call you back to being present to this conversation with your family. Take a good deep cleansing breath in through the nose. Out. Begin to move your toes, fingers. Look yourself. Comfort yourself. I hope you loved and enjoyed that quality time with yourself. I want to hold space. I don't want us to run out of time this morning, so I do want to hold space for us to talk. I'm not just here to lecture and give information. I'm here to also help it integrate and to be with my sisters, to gather and connect and bond. Put an exclamation mark in the chat if you're back, or you can unmute and say, "Ooh, Tama, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back."
Present.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Sometimes you just need a moment, right, to just really sort through it, sort
Yeah.
through your thoughts, your feelings, and say, "All right, now that I done looked at all of it, this is where I land." I know. You want the Q&A, you want the discussion, you want to hear how we process all of this information. That's the value of being in the woman's circle of empowerment. I hope what you heard so far was a blessing to your life. I hope that it activates something in you and compels you to go a little bit deeper. We meet every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. When you are a part of our community, you not only get access to the teachings, and I'm not the only one who teaches. The other sisters facilitate the circle. Tribe life is the advantage. You get to practice your social skills with relating to other women of like mind and spirit. So if you need some more of this positive energy and this wisdom, join us in the Woman's Circle of Empowerment. I cannot wait to meet you there.